Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to this game's tutorial. Today what we're going to do is we're going to be splitting some prefabs. So over here we have a different prefab for this research ad diamond and the one we have in game. As you can tell now in the game we've got this kind of result. As you can tell, the navigation bar is now really responsive. Every single stats icon and stat menu is actually more responsive as well. Abilities, same thing. Currency, same thing, and also research has been fixed. So we're fixing bugs we introduced in the last episode as well. And yeah guys, so that's what we're gonna be doing today. Hopefully you don't get bored too much since we're doing art. Yeah, let's get started. Alright, so we are back here. We've made pretty much the hub scene a little bit more pleasant to watch. We've made... oh wait, right here. We need to fix the text of this. But yeah, the hub scene is pretty much more handleable right now. If we go inside of the game scene, there is a few things to fix, and that is what we are going to be doing today. So of course, all the buttons we see down there, the icons of the speed up and slow down, this icon up here, this menu, the stats, the ability are totally messed up, so we need to fix them here. And research is the same. And that's the same here as well. So let's go ahead and just get started. What we are going to do is we are going to head over to our game scene. And now in the 2D UI, we'll scroll down to the ability panel, and this is what we have. Now, the reason it did this is because we're using a prefab, and whenever we changed it inside of the actual hub scene, and also change it here. So we gotta make sure that one of them is our prefab and one of the other is just something we use once in a while. So, or you know what, we could actually be making two different actually prefabs. So, or even better than that, we could have two prefab, like we should have in the beginning. So here's what I'm going to do. We have the ability container right here, and that's the one I'm actually using right there, and it works fine. Now I'm going to go inside of the game, the hub scene, sorry. Being a little bit confused this morning. And then I'll go beneath the UI root. We are going to find the ability menu, which is right about there. And we are going to save this as a prefab. So the ability container down here, we're going to drag and drop it inside of our project folder, pretty much anywhere that isn't in the UI one. And we'll say menu ability container. Put it here. And yeah, this is now part of the menu ability container. So we also gonna be changing this one. And now I want to keep the text inside of it. So what is the text? Pretty much just the title. I'll keep that. Duplicate the menu ability container, and then we're going to be changing it back to what it was. So change the title. I get some blah blah, that works. Yeah, everything seems to be working just here. And let's also change the font of the button while we're at it. So beneath the button message, we're going to go ahead and just choose our font. Now you're going to see it has been changed here. If we hit apply, we should be able to modify it on this one as well, and it did modify it. But it's not going to modify it anywhere else in the game. Oh, and also the image. Forget about the image inside of it. So icon, we put that on diamond. Alright, that being done, we can now close this off. We are going to go under the share menu. And as you can tell, these one are still the old version, and that's totally normal. It's because they're part of the ability container prefab, not the menu ability container. So we're going to be changing that again. I will just be deleting them both. Oops, I'm the wrong one. Go under the share center, watch ads, and I'll be deleting them both. And while we're at it, just realize that we do have a background here. We're going to turn it off. There we go. And we're going to drag and drop two menu ability container in here. Here is the first one, and here's the second one. Now, the name of course have to change. So this one is gold, that's working. The title is rewarded ad for gold. That's good, that's good. The use button should actually work by itself, if I recall. We'll test it out later. And now the second one is for diamonds. We change the icons to diamond. The title does work. Everything else seems to work. Okay, so we managed to actually change our prefab here, so that's good. We can now go inside of the game and just play with the normal ability container. So to do this, we are going to head over to the bottom UI ability panel, ability lists. We're going to take a single container and we're going to make sure it actually scales up. So how exactly do we go about doing this? I'm not quite sure. We do have a preferred width, height, but where exactly is the background of this? So here it is. This is the thing that actually needs to be scaled up. Now, what is the control of it? Alright, so we're going to start at the root of the problem. The first one is, well, this thing. Let's turn off that image, we don't need it anymore. Under the ability list, we are also going to put the child alignment on, let's say middle left. So we have a better, oh wait, not middle left, upper left. And then we force expand the width. We could do that, we could simply do a force expand, but is that going to work? Let's actually just have a look at pretty much everything here. Now obviously the text is a little bit too big, so we need to modify that as well. The icon might want to be a little bit smaller, maybe 90 by 90. Okay, let's say 80 by 80. And then we just move it a little bit towards the left here. That's gonna work. That fits. The title, I think, is fine. The text inside of it, I think, is fine. The use button could be a little bit smaller. So I'll just go for another 80 like that. Or maybe even... No, 80 sounds fine. Okay. So once you've got this rolling, something that makes a little bit more sense, we're gonna hit apply, and if everything went fine, we should have not modified these, and as you can tell, they're not modified. They still have the same size they had back when we worked on them. Okay, so that's a very good start. We managed to fix this. Now let's go back and actually do the same exact thing for the actual research, because as you can tell right here, this is the ability. Now this is the research, and we do have the same exact problem. Now tradesman and all the other research are going to be following the same exact pattern as those, so they're pretty much displayed here, and they're also displayed inside of the hub, so we gotta be keeping a reference to both of them. Now over here, this is the research container. That's fine. This is going to be the research container prefab. Now if we go beneath the hub, we open up that very window, which is somewhere. Let's actually check. The share center menu is now on 0, and we are going to have the research menu toggle done. Alright, now let's head over to the research container, the only one we have, and we are going to drag and drop inside of our folder here, rename it for menu research container, and we can simply just put it back in our UI folder. Now this one pretty much acts on his own, and it's just gonna do its thing. Good times. We can now go back inside of the game scene and actually tackle this mess over here. So I think we're going to be doing the same exact thing we did for the other one. We're going to be putting this on middle left, upper left, and force expand on the width. Now it messed up a little bit of the sizing, so we're going to make sure we take as much space as possible in terms of text. The icon is fine. The description could be a little bit not wider, it could be moved on this side though, like this, something like that. Duration is going to be centered with that, so what about here actually, sounds great. Title, and yeah, if you just look at it from the game scene, I think it looks pretty much centered. Alright, so that's pretty much all we needed for this. As far as the text goes, everything is fine for now. As long as we don't have our icons, we can't really fix that little bug we have here. And obviously this thing over here is definitely not right, the actual band here. So let's see what we can do about the progress bar. We gotta be putting the width on 420. I think that's pretty much all we have to do actually. Alright, let's hit apply, and we should now be good to go. So we pretty much tackled our bugs that we've created, I guess, and we are going to look at creating the rest, not creating the rest, but at least fixing the rest of this down UI here. So we're going to go through every single of our bottom UI and actually do what we have to do. Alright, so first, the stats panel. It looks fine like it is right now, I think. However, the inside of it, the inside of the stats, they could be using some love. So let's go ahead and open it up. The stats container, we're going to change the background of that. We're going to be using our own backgrounds. Now, which one would fit the best? It's really hard to tell because we have a weird background image going on. And that's something else I had in mind. Let's actually use the UI Atlas #1, the one that has the most transparency, or I mean the least opacity. So this way we can actually have a cool image in the background while we're scrolling down. And let me just give you an example with that. So let's use something like this, or not. That looks awful. But as you can tell, if you just look really closely behind it, and I hit apply on this, you can tell that we have an actual image going on. So we could have a background image and just do our scrolling, and we can still see a little bit of the of the background image of every single stats. So I think that could look cool, and I'll just leave it like that. Now of course the image is going to be changed for something else in the future. This doesn't look very cool, but you know, you get the idea. Just a really slight image in the background that gives you a feel of more depth or art or whatever you might call it. Alright, back on the stats container, we are going to open up the icons. The icons is fine. The title needs to have our new font, because good time. Could be in bold or italic. Now let's actually just use bold. And the level up button of course is going to be like every other single button we have. It's going to be using this very sprite here, and whenever we highlight or toggle it, we're going to change it. So sprite swap to UI Atlas 2, and here we go. Now if we open it up, the text needs to be changed as well. New font. It's not on best fit right now, but if we just increment the size of it to actually it has to be on best fit because the gold amount is always going to change. So let's actually try something like that, but add a little margin on the left and the right, so maybe 5 and 5. Alright, I'm sure we can make this look good eventually, but let's just focus on what we're doing right now. Next one is a level up. I'd like to keep this font. This is going to work. Now let's head over to the stat value. The stat value can be using our new font as well. Once we're ready, we're going to hit apply, and every single one beneath it is going to be using this very prefab. Now, for some reason, it seems like I have like overlapping text here, which kind of sucks. So let's figure out why. It kind of created a new value, a new stat value, and I don't like that for some reason. Alright, let's go back before the apply. I don't think we can. Okay, so we applied a prefab and it's just there forever. Fair enough, I'll just go ahead and clean it up one by one. It's not like we have 12,000 skills. And just removing all of the stat value that is not part of the prefab. You can tell which one is not part of the prefab because it's black color. It's not the actual blue color. And here we go. Alright. So we managed to clear this one up. We are going to actually just close it. Open up the ability panel. This one, I think it's going to be the exact same thing. So we're just going to have a background image like this that we can look at in the background. However, it's going to be really hard to see because here we have like this darkish color. Alright, we don't actually need an image for this one. I'll actually remove it. So no image for this guy. Now the research. If I can close this one. The research panel, obviously the red is not going to work. I'm going to remove it just the exact same way we have the other one set up. And yeah. Now for some reason I just duplicate this to have a look at how it's going to be looking like if we have multiple. but it doesn't seem to stack even though we have a vertical layout group. I'm wondering, oh, this is a research list, my bad. I'm supposed to duplicate the research container. Alright, everything works. Good. So again, this is going to work. We are going to toggle it off, move on to the next one, the currency panel. This one might need a little bit of changes, a lot of changes actually. And let's start tackling them. So, currency container, the first one. The amount of it, I'd like to have this in the new font because the number looks cool in the new font. And then the icon is fine. The title could also be using a new font as bold. Okay. Cell 4, currency button. Of course, it's a button. We're going to be using this rectangle shape with sprite swap and the UI atlas that does the highlighting. Cell 4 is going to be using our new font. I hope it's on best fit. I'll put it on best fit. And finally, the cell 4 text is also going to be using our new font. Now, in terms of the background, let's see what we can do here. So is this a background? This is not. Yeah, this is a background. We can be using the UI atlas, the lower opacity one, and do what we've did in the tower stats. So I'll just leave it like that, and we'll have a background image going on. So once you've got all your changes, you're gonna hit apply. Everything should be modified down here. And now under the currency panel, you can go ahead and just put some kind of image, placeholder image for now. And here it is. Good time. Alright, so closing this one off, and we're going to tackle the navigation bar before we move on to testing this out. So of course, the navigation bar is down here. What we're going to do with this is stats, so let's find. Well, first, we have this thing in the background, this black image that we can just toggle on and off. So we're going to toggle it off or completely remove it if you like. I'll just leave it on there, but as off. And you know what, since it is a navigation bar, I feel like it can actually take the whole screen. So here it is. I just made sure it takes the whole screen. And now for every little stats button is, well, you know, whatever we do for buttons. So let's start with this UI Atlas one. I'll just select all of them at the same time. So UI Atlas 1. And then we put it on sprite swap. And when you highlight it, it's going to be on UI Atlas 3. And when you click it, same thing. Now obviously the fonts are not looking great, so we're going to be changing it to the new font. We're going to be removing the best fit. And just putting it on something we can read. Maybe like 27, 20, 25 is great. Something like that. And now as for the biggest part of this whole bottom UI, it's actually the whole thing, this whole thing here. I'm not quite sure what we can do with this, to be honest. We can be trying out our new background. We can be using this guy. But then it's going to mess up our margin and our padding and every single other thing we've did. So I'm really not sure what we can do. We can actually just find a new image, put it here later on. But as for right now, I think I'll just have a normal color. Now the thing is, if we use something with opacity in the background, there's no camera rendering beneath it or behind it. So it's going to give you some weird shading error when it comes down to that. So I'm not quite sure what to do, to be honest. I'll be using the UI Atlas, the last one. And I'll be using the rectangle shape so it doesn't actually give me a really big margin on the left and right side. Now having this, I can reposition my navigation bar just a little bit. So I'll give myself a padding of, say, 5, and position Y of also 5. Well, maybe 6 in this case. And I also feel like, since this is a white background, I also feel like taking all of my buttons down here and just putting it on a dark color, maybe gray-ish. Like so. And we can finally give this a try, see how it looks in the game. Gonna jump straight in. And obviously something is wrong here because we can see through. And that kind of sucks. So we'll have to find out something about this. But of course, as you can tell, this is way more responsive than it used to be. Now, in terms of the height and what we have to do with the y-axis, this is a little bit different because if we change it here and we just say put it on -9 or something, whenever we click on it, it's gonna go back to 0. So we can't control the position y of this at all. What we're gonna be needing to do is actually create a layer on top of it. That's what I think. Plus, we can also add a mask so it doesn't go over here on top of this. So here's what I'm going to do to fix that y-axis. I'm going to right click on stats panel, create a new canvas, and on that canvas I will put a mask basically. So let me just type in mask, and also we're gonna add an image. Alright, so now that image is pretty much our mask, and we need to resize this. Let's actually find a way. Well, first the stats panel itself has to be on 470. And then the canvas, let's just make sure it scales with both of them. So it does do that right now. As you can tell, it fits perfectly. However, we do need to have our margin. So to have our margin at the very top, we're going to be putting in some values at top. So right about there, about 6. And down here at the bottom, that's going to be like 5.25. So now we know that this image covers the whole screen. We can now click on Show Mask Graphic, toggle it off, and make sure that the stats list is inside of the canvas. This way we just restrain that very stat list. Alright. Now as far as the position Y goes, you can put it back on 0 if it wasn't already. And as you can tell, it just stops right there. And might need to just put an additional pixel because it goes inside of the button. So let's go back on our canvas, crank it up a little bit. Alright, so something like that, and we pretty much managed to fix our menu down there. Now that's fine with the stats panel. Let's head over to the ability panel. Obviously something is wrong here, and we're just going to be doing the same exact thing. So I'll just copy over the actual canvas we've made, and I'll put it above the list, so right about here. And I'll put the ability list inside of that canvas. Now this way it should be fixed. In terms of the position Y, of course, we move that down. And then the canvas, left and right, we can just... And now over here, as you can tell, we could be adding some more width. And the way we do this is by incrementing the width of the ability list. So back to 470. That's of course if you want to have that extra space, but you don't need to. Alright, turn this off. Next one is the research panel again. And I'm going to be duplicating a canvas, put it here. Remove the ability off this research, and same thing. So research list goes up to 470, the position Y is up to 0. And we messed up this thing over here, so let's just make sure we fix it. The research container, research progress bar is now back to 440. Let's just make sure that everything works the way it should. And then I'm going to hit apply. I'm also going to hit apply on the ability container. Alright, turn this off. Currency panel should be the last one. And now we go back to taking a canvas, putting it down here, removing the content of that canvas, putting the currency list inside of the canvas, and here we go. We do our usual fixing back to... Oh wait, put the width on 470 here. And once we have all of that, we can go ahead and just play with the margin left and right. And position Y goes on 0. And for some reason this one doesn't work the same exact way, so I'll be putting that on upper left. And why does it not work? Let me find out why. Oh, it's not unforce expand, so let's just make sure it is unforce expand. And here we go. We pretty much managed to fix all our little options down there, and I'll give this a try instead of the game. Everything should look really good, or at least better. So all of these buttons, they do give this highlight, and we can see the values. This one is max, obviously. We cut the level up thing, which is something I don't really mind, to be honest. I'd like to replace the level up by an actual icon if we can really soon. Other than that, as you can tell, all of these, they work fine. Now in terms of color and shading, could be using a little bit more work. So as you can tell, the buttons right here, they use like a darker color, and that's cool, but these one, they use a lighter one. And might confuse the player eventually, so that's not very nice. So yeah, I'll end the episode on this note, and then in the next one we can start tackling the upper part of the game. So we're going to be making these icons, adding another icon here, changing the text, maybe reposition this thing, and you know, just start fixing stuff. Alright guys, so I hope you guys enjoy, I hope you liked it. If you did, please give me a like, really appreciate it. If you have any comment or question, you can put them in the comment section below. Other than that, please subscribe for more tutorials like these. Make sure you check out the Patreon, blah blah blah. And yeah, see you next time.